And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Jim's In Town Gardening and Bella's Legacy Rabbitry YouTube channel. Glad you could join us. Not sure how many are on. It's showing two. Want to welcome you. This is different for me to say good afternoon. Well, good afternoon. For those that are on the East Coast, not quite. It would still be morning for those that are in the other time zones. So today, as promised, Monday, we're continuing a series that we've been sharing things to know before you get a bunny. Hello, Brother Roy, Sister Sharon. Welcome. Welcome. As many of you know, I have a lot of rabbits. We raise rabbits mostly to sell for pets. We sell rabbits for ones who are planning on feeding themselves. They can grow rabbits. Rabbit meat is very, very good for you. But what I want to share in the first part of this series is those that are looking for pets, and even for those that are looking for breeders, some of the things that you need to know to get ready to bring those rabbits home. We've sold quite a few here in the last few months, and a lot of people that are interested. And I've shared that I was going to do this series, so hopefully these are going to help you. So today, what I want to do is share some of the things to get ready for this new rabbit that you're going to be bringing home. Last week, I shared some pros and cons about having rabbits. Rabbits do require some care. For those that think that they're going to have a rabbit and they're going to just let it loose in their home, not a good idea. Not that you couldn't, but there's some precautions that you'd have to do to get your home ready to do that. One would be wires. Rabbits like to chew. They are in the rodent family. Rodents chew. And one of the things that I can almost guarantee you they're going to try to do is chew your wires. So for those that if you're going to have a room and you're going to dedicate that room, which we've had people that have bought and they've sent me pictures, and it's a really cute setup. So some things that that I would stress that you would have ready. Where are you going to home this rabbit? Is it going to be in your home? Now, many are probably thinking, I don't want a rabbit running around my house. I might step on it. What about pee? What about poop? I can't take care of all my wires. I can't take care of this and that they might chew on. I don't think I want a rabbit running around my home. Well, that's fine. There are other solutions that you can still have your rabbit in your home. There are multiple places that sell enclosed structures that you can have your rabbit in, and a lot of them look good. So let me share a few of the pictures. Now, for those that aren't aware, I've got rabbits in here, as you can see. Now, that was something that I built. It was going to be for 2 rabbits a lot of years ago, and it's worked really well, and we've divided it up. Actually, I've got to add on to the end of it, and that works really well. Now, all these rabbits behind me, they're all potty trained. Potty training can be easy, and then you've got some rabbits that can be not so easy to potty train. So let me show you a few of the pictures. Now, and you got to bear with me, friends, because I am not really familiar with doing this. I haven't done this a whole lot. No, I won't. All right, I'm going to have to remove myself. I know I can do this without. All right, I'm going to have to drop down. some ideas. um, so a cage, that's one of the first things that you need to do to figure out when you find out where you're going to have it, what are you going to hold them in? Now, for ones who are thinking about dedicating a room and the rabbit's going to run around loose in there, you can buy that outdoor carpet. And I know that they make some materials. One of the things you got to be careful is, again, they like to chew. I don't know if they could chew that outside type carpeting that's got plastic in it, which wouldn't be good for a rabbit. So these are things to consider. Like I said, you can potty train rabbits. It can be a very, very easy thing to do. Now Gizmo down in the bottom cage, actually he's laying in his litter box right now. What I did with him is the trays that I have underneath my cages outside, I took a paper towel, I sopped up some of the urine, I brought it in. Leanna had the litter box all ready for him, and I stuck that in there, and he got a whiff of it. He knew that was potty. Most of my rabbits, even my big ones in the cages out in the barn, they will pee and they will poop, normally in the same corner. Some will be right up front. Midnight, she would be right up front, and there were times that she'd pee right in the front and it would miss. I don't have a urine guard on the front, and she covered my hat with pee. I wasn't impressed. So that would be one way that I would recommend as far as potty training them. They sell this paper material that you put in. It will keep the urine smell down for a couple, 3 days. You're probably going to want to change it every other day, every third day. I wouldn't go much more than that. Most rabbits will poop in there too, those little marbles. Now, some of these rabbits will let droppings go in their living area. But with those, they don't smell. Pick them up, throw them in the compost bucket or in the litter box. Now, food. What do you feed them in? Some people use bowls. Now, out in the barn, I use what they call a J feeder. They're made out of a metal material. It goes down, it curves in, it goes inside the cage. The L part at the bottom or the J part at the bottom. There's a screen on the back side, so any of the dust will filter out through. Actually, hold on just a second, I can show you. Got a little boy who's probably going to be upset I took his feeder. All right, so this is what a J feeder looks like. So this goes up against the outside of the cage, and then there's wire clips that go down and connect it. On the back, you can see the pellets are in there. This is a screen that lets the dust fall out, and then they eat right here. That's one type of feeder. Now I've also got 3 bottle-fed babies that are in here. Mama didn't take care of her babies right from time of birth, and what I did is I brought her in for the first few days, set her in my lap, and I had the babies feeding. They crawl underneath the nurse. But then she wasn't letting enough milk down. So my main concern with these babies at the beginning was they got that colostrum milk. So that worked. And it was bitter, bitter cold out there. Only 3 babies, knowing that I was going to have to bottle feed them anyways. Um, they've got just a bowl, and they're out eating now. There's a bowl I put the pellets in, and that works well. Now, and then, like I said, you can get little bowls. There's another plastic type. It looks just like the J feeder, but it's a plastic one. It goes inside the cage, can hook inside on the back of the wire. I use those for my little ones when they first come out of their nest box, and they're roaming around the cage. It gives them a chance to eat some pellets. Away from mamas, because I feed sunflower seeds out there to all my rabbits except for my little guys. Something that I started doing this year is feeding calf manna. I give my does a teaspoon of calf manna, hoping that they'll produce more milk. There's some other things that help with their body, and I don't want the babies getting that. So I use it. I think it's made by Katie. I'll use those. Actually, one of these bunnies has one of those feeders. Actually, there's one. This is opposite. Shiloh, she's got one of those type feeders that I'm talking about right there. So that might be another idea for food. For water, again, you can use a bowl. Now, the only thing with using bowls, oftentimes when you add something that rabbit is not used to, they will pick it up and they'll toss it. It's a typical thing that rabbits do. They don't chew the plastic. They don't, brother. I've never had one chew on these type of feeders. Now, that feeder right there, and that isn't I don't believe that's a Katie feeder. It's another one. I did have a doe that chewed the daylights out of it. It didn't harm her. It's something you'd have to watch with. Like I said, the J feeders are what I use the majority of. These guys now in the back are all on bowls. Now Gizmo, the one down at the bottom, he eats out of the bowl fine. But if he thinks that he needs to be pet, or if you're petting another rabbit, there's times he'll take that bowl and he'll throw it between the cage floor. When I'm doing sermons every once in a while, you'll hear him do that. In fact, he did it earlier this morning. Leanna must have picked it up. So that might be a concern unless you can anchor that bowl down onto something. It's something you're just going to have to watch. Now, bottles. Now, this is a lot smaller bottle than what I use. This is probably a 10 ounce or an 8 ounce maybe. Out in the barn, I use 32 ounce, same thing. It goes onto the cage. It's dripping on me. It goes out on the cage. There's a wire that holds it up against. This goes into the wire, this part. And their tongues will go and it drips water out. And then when I've got mamas that have babies, a lot of times I'll use a bigger one. I think it's a 64 ounce. It's more of a square type water. You put the water in, you put the cap on, tip it upside down. There's two different wires that hold that on. When I've got young ones and I'm using those even still, I've got to fill it usually twice a day, when they get any size. When they get up to the 3-4 week old, they're going to go through a lot of water. Rabbits drink a lot of water. Ceramic bowls, them heavy, thick kind, that might work. And again, use what is rabbit friendly. Like I said, rabbits do like to chew. If you're building a wooden cage, and I've got some that have wooden frames, and what I usually do is I take a piece of pine board. You be very, very careful what woods you use. And I've screwed those onto the 2x4s that I have, and they've chewed on those some. Now, those are something that I use during the summer months, just to home rabbits outside. And because I have baby bunnies usually in the barn all the time, I don't want to bring new people in there and the rabbits get all afraid. So I do house some rabbits outside. Again, now let's talk about homing outside. A lot of people, they'll say, well, I don't know if I could house my rabbit outside because it's cold. Rabbits can deal with a lot of cold. You got to keep them dry. You don't want the sun, the snow going in there, the rain going in there. You want to be able to protect them from the wind. What I worry about is the summer because rabbits don't like the heat. And I will warn people if they're letting me know that they're going to have an outside home, is you've got to have it in the shade. Now, one thing that I will probably do this year, because I do home rabbits, young rabbits outside, I'll probably get those little computer fans, and I will link them up so that I can run those on the cages and do it by solar. You can buy solar panels that will feed those fans. So that's what I'm considering on doing this year. I do have the foam board insulation, the 2-inch. Over the top of my cages, I also have roofing material, the metal roofing that I have up just to help protect on water. I got what they call felt. A lot of the paper machines up here in Maine would use different types. It's a heavy type material, and I'll have that droop either in the front or in the back, depending on where the sun is, just to keep some of that sun from beating down on them. And I watch them. Usually out in the summertime, I'm either cleaning cages or repairing cages or pressure washing cages to get ready to go through the winter again. I'm outside a lot, working in the garden. So I'm watching them constantly. So that would be something that I would definitely, outside homes, they're a good idea. Have them protected so that nothing can go and attack them. If you've got weasels in your area, weasels will attack a rabbit. So make sure you're using a type of metal that's going to protect them, whatever that wire that you're using. I'm in hopes. I want to build the cages like what I've got in the barn. For those that have watched the videos you've seen, there's on the right side, they're all 30 by 36s. They've got a pan underneath that I harvest the manure. I've got a gentleman that buys all the pellets dried pellets that I can create. All the urine, stuff with hay in it. Sometimes if I've got a rabbit that really pees a lot, or sometimes if I got a group of rabbits that in their mom and let's say 3-week-olds, 8 or 12 bunnies, there's a lot of urine. So where I usually clean the whole tray out every other day, there's going to be a lot of urine. So I'll put pine sawdust in there usually. Of course, the rabbits can't get to that. That's going to be about 1.5 inches, 2 inches below it. So what are some of the other things that you're going to want in a rabbit cage? They're going to need hay. Now, there's all kinds of things that you can do. I don't like putting hay on the bottom of the floor. The only time that I will put hay on the floor is if I've got a doe who is making nest. And again, I wanted to hold all this off until I went with ones that are buying breeders or That's the only time that I will put hay on the floor so that they can gather it up quick. And I usually already have hay in the nest box, but if she feels that she needs more, she can do that. Now, oh, this is opposite. If you notice right there, that is a hay ball, and we used to buy that at PetSmart. I don't think they make them anymore. The last few times that we've been in there, we haven't found any. And they had the, oh, what is it? They were the only ones that we could find that. Now there are other types of feeders that you can buy and clip on the outside, and you can stuff the hay in that, and they can pull it from the inside of the cage. I've used those before. I find them very messy. I find that oftentimes there's rabbits that won't pull out of that. Now I know there's going to be some that raise rabbits that are going to say they don't feed any hay. And like I shared last week, I want my rabbits to have hay available to them at all times. I think they need that. They need it to help keep their teeth trimmed down. Now, another thing that you can use for that is if you've got apple trees or you've got apple branches available to you. Those are a good wood. And to search the woods that are good, like I've got a pear tree that I've got to trim. And I was looking, and pear trees are good for them to chew on, but there's a time that you've got to let those branches dry because there is something that isn't good for them. So I'm not going to take the chance. I could wait the 3-4 months, whatever it is. I'm not going to take that chance. I've got 2 apple trees out here, and I can usually, for the 36 cages that I've got out there, and even the bunnies in here, I've got plenty that I can give them to chew on. Salt rings. I don't have salt rings out in the barn, brother, but these bunnies in here do. Oh, this is so opposite. That right there is one, and that one right there is another salt ring. I believe they've all got them. Maybe, yeah, Shiloh's got one right there. And I know Caleb down below has one too. And Gizzy's got one. Gizzy's would be right there. Usually takes them a while before they'll go after that, but once they do, Leanna will change those about every 2 months. Some of them just lick it. Some of them will chew it. Out in the barn, I haven't added them to. I could. I didn't grow up with that. That was something that Leanna decided to do. She found a site, and they recommended. It might be something that I do later. In the grain, that's got the minerals and stuff that the rabbits need. Now, there are ones who, and here's something else that I want to share. If you're searching online and you're looking at a rabbit site, and especially for pets, all right, your pet type rabbits are typically your lops, like what we have, your lion heads, your mini rexes. So you look at that site, and then you've got New Zealand's, or you've got Californians, or you've got rexes. Don't go by what they're saying on the grain, because what they're going to say is 1/4 of a cup or 1/2 a cup of grain. Now, the majority of all my bigger breeds out there, they're going to eat at least a cup of grain a day in a 24-hour period. And I want my big does, my big bucks, I want them to eat that grain, the whole cup. And what I do is I can run my hand down their back and down their backbone. People that have come to buy rabbits from me, I'll show what to look for as far as feeding. Now, with my mini rexes, I don't want them eating a whole cup of grain. These guys get 1/2 a cup, and most of them will eat a cup of grain, except for that one right there. She eats about 1/4 of a cup a day, if that. Um, so that's something to think about. The size feeder, if you're going to use a bowl. For a larger rabbit, if you came and you bought a New Zealand from me, you guys need some more grain. Holy smokes! Now this is showing a lot bigger than what it is on the camera. I wouldn't want to use that for a cup of grain. It wouldn't hold the whole cup of grain. So again, your circumstances, the breed of rabbit that you're buying, that's something you're going to have to adjust to on what you get. Now this cage in back of me, this was it's solid metal panels. They're 14 by 14 inches. And there are people who have made their cages with just that. No wood, no outside structure, inside structure to hold it together. Me knowing that we were going to have at least 2 rabbits in them at the time, even though they were smaller, it was a mini Rex, and then Gizzy is a mini Rex. Lionhead Cross, he's not real heavy. He probably weighs 4.5, 5 pounds. Same with the kids upstairs. I wanted something stronger, and that's why I built the frame around the whole thing. I wanted it sturdy. I knew Leanna was going to want to move it around, so if one was shedding, she could clean up behind. There's rollers on this. She can take it. She can go all over the house with it. Easy to move. So that wasn't really expensive to buy or to build. Of course, when I went with the pine boards, because that's what I use when I'm dealing with rabbits, pine boards, that got a little pricey. Pine boards aren't, and it was right during COVID, I believe, just prior to COVID. So anyways, your rabbit home, your food dishes, your water dishes. Another thing that I recommend, let me show you a picture of one. I was going to have one available here, and I didn't. Is something, if you're using a cage floor, you want to get them off that cage floor. Allow them to be able to get them off that cage floor. I got to drop down for a moment. Usually they come in a box of 12. I would highly recommend having those. You can use tile. I know some people use blocks of wood, a decent size piece of wood. Be careful of the wood you use. Again, rabbits like to chew. And the other thing, if you've got one who is apt to pee, is apt to urinate on the resting mat, I want that urine to be able to drop down through, and I want it to be able to be washed so it's kept clean. So that would be something you'd want to consider. Now, for ones that are in cages, I kind of brought this up at the beginning. If you're thinking about getting a New Zealand or a Californian or a Rex or a Flemish Giant, and you're going to home it in a 30 by 30 cage, you can do that. However, at least once a week, I would recommend letting that rabbit out and having a chance to roam. Early on when I first started showing the rabbits, especially rabbits that I had for sale, I had the ones who are going to attack anybody who raises the rabbits in a cage. And there was one time I got so frustrated with the ones that were attacking me that I was going to go around cage by cage by cage, every 36-inch cage or 36 cage that I had in that barn. And I was going to hold the camera right over and show these bunnies. Now, do these look like unhappy bunnies? I didn't do it. I didn't need to. I would rather, now, this is my feelings. I know there's people that are going to disagree with me, but this is me. I know there are people who raise the rabbits in colonies. And if you're set up for that, more power to you. But I've got some concerns over colonies. I went to this one place who I was considered. She had bought some rabbits from me, and there was one doe that I really wanted to have, and I could buy her at the time. She had a litter of, I think, 6 babies. They were just out of the nest box. And I went to pick this doe up and her babies. And at the time, I really needed some New Zealands from a different bloodline. Like I said, this she was a little smaller than what I raised, but she was a nice shaped doe. And I had the babies, and I knew the buck that she had used. Well, I thought I knew the buck that she used. Well, on my way, she texted. She says, I can't let that doe go. I found out she's pregnant. She's making nests for another one. And I'm thinking, you've got babies that are only 3 weeks old. Takes 21 days 31 days once a doe becomes pregnant to have that next litter. Wow. And she didn't know who the dad was. So there's a concern for me on the colony raising. If you've got more than one boy in there with your does, who's dad? How do you keep track of, for those that keep track of their pedigree? And I recommend doing that. How do you keep track of that? How do you know if you're breeding a dad with daughter or moms with sons? How do you keep track of that when you've got, and she had multiple rabbits in there. I would say, this is a guess, it's been quite a few years now, but that there were 50 rabbits in that home. So that was one thing. Now, the ones that raise them outside. Now here, we've got critters that roam around. I've got security cameras all around this property. I know what's on my property almost at all times. You said it before. I could type it. Yeah. I know that I've got mink in this area. I know that there are possums, and that's something I don't ever want to deal with, is a possum. That is one of the ugliest animals that I think I've ever seen. We've got eagles that fly. Leanne and I counted 11 eagles flying around here one spring. There's another big reason why. Foxes, coons. I don't want my bunnies that I spend a lot of time with to be attacked by any of those things. And then here's the other thing. Now, some of you have seen the outside outside cages that I use. Strips are to keep those cages off the ground. Rabbits are diggers. They love to dig. I don't want them digging out from underneath that enclosure. The other thing is I move these guys every single day, so they're on fresh grass, and what they're doing is fertilizing my back lawn. I don't want them digging in the ground. Now, in some areas, I don't know if I've got contaminants in that ground that can harm them, but I know there's some things in the ground where rabbits can pick up diseases from. So it's why I keep my outside, you might as well call them rabbit tractors. It's why I keep them off the ground. So another concern. What else do they need? What I just mentioned, giving them a chance to be able to move more than for a type, smaller type breed, 24 by 24. Let them get out and get that exercise. Let them kick up their back heels. You know, Leanna, I was showing her the videos that I was, or the pictures that I was going to use. And where are you? With this picture right here. Let me back up. So I see this 5 watching. Man, if I was closer, I'd take the black and tan. He's soul brother. However, with Alicia's litter, I've got 2 whites, which would take after grandma. It would be the same litter I just showed you. Not same litter, but same mom and the same dad of those babies there. There's 2 white ones and there's 2 black otters. I'm so hoping those are all girls, because I may keep one of the girls. I may keep one of the does, the white does. But I've got quite a few that want the black if they're does. So that's interesting. Let's see, what else? Trying to think something that you want to prepare yourself before bringing that bunny home. The cage, you know, what are you going to use for a cage? Is it going to be inside? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I bet you. I don't remember how old they were when I advertised them, Roy, but I'm going to say within 3 or 4 days that one was sold. Just beautiful, beautiful rabbit. I love the black. I like anyways, and then the light tan around its eyes, around the nose, but the combination on the belly, just striking. Just striking. I've got some black babies that from Ebony that can go. Let's see, they'll be 8 weeks the 31st. She's a big doe. I bred her to a big red boy. So, in fact, it would be both their first time litters, the boy and the girl. So, I was going to pick them up. These guys are just like popcorn. I don't dare to do it right now. Now, another thing for the ones who think that they're going to keep a rabbit, they got a fence around their home. And their fence is all around their property, and it goes right down to the ground. And I have had ones who wanted to do that. They wanted to buy a bunch of rabbits, let them breed, and just have a whole bunch of baby rabbits running around. I've thought about that, Roy. And I have held off on doing that. All right. Seeing that my brother in the Lord, who, again, I think the world of, on my New Zealands, and there's going to be ones that are going to say I'm crazy selling them that way. On my New Zealands, whether they're Whether I've got records on them or not, because some of them I had no records. And then I've got some that I know 3 generations, some I know 5 generations on. On them, I get $30. That's my price for my New Zealand crosses, whether they're bred with a Rex or even the California crosses that I have. Those are $35. My Rexes, my purebred Rexes are $45. And that's how I've gone for many, many, many years. I had a gentleman who, again, very close friends with. In fact, he's the one that I took in the D8 that we're watching for him. When I told him that I was getting $30 from my pedigreed New Zealands, he laughed at me. Jim, you could get $100 a piece for those rabbits. You know, I'm not a greedy person. I've never been a greedy person. I grew up, my brother and my sister and I grew up with animals. We had rabbits, we had ducks, we had geese, we had chickens, we had turkeys. We raised our own food. Then we got sheep when we moved up here to Maine in 74. We finally got cows. That's where my dream was cows. I've always enjoyed cows. I like working with cows. So for me, I'm seeing a lot of new people get into raising their own livestock to put food on the table. I've had a lot of moms and dads who want their kids because they grew up with animals. When they grew up, they want their children to raise up with animals. And if I can help start somebody raise their own pets or raise their own animals to be the breeders for what's going to put on their table, I want to help them. You know, you put $100 price tag on a rabbit, people are going to turn their nose up to it. If I can get them started and I can help educate them, and for anybody that might be watching, I see, well, we were at 8, down to 4. If I can get them started in the ways that have worked well for me, like I'm doing here on these videos, that's so worth it to me. You know, and hopefully those children, when they grow up and they start having children and they remember some of the tips that were shared with them, that they can share with their children or somebody else who might be trying to raise rabbits or even cows. I try to help people who are raising cows, tips that I learned of all the dairy farming that I went through. Raising sheep, I can help educate people on sheep, chickens. You know, I'll share my successes. I'll share things that didn't go so well with me that I learned from. So anybody that might be watching, have you you got any questions that maybe you're thinking about getting into rabbits, or maybe something that I've mentioned that that didn't work so well, and you come up with a different idea, a better idea. You want to share that, and if not, on the video in the comment box, so other people that might come to the video later. What are some questions you have for me? You know, if I'm going to teach this series, it helps me if I know what you're looking for. Now, Sarah and Eric, they might be watching. I don't think they're on right now because I think Sarah would have mentioned. Maybe you've got some success stories that you want to share. You know, help me. Help me with what you want to learn. Help me with some mistakes that maybe I'm making. You know, we're a family here, and let's see other bunny owners, other potential bunny owners, let's see them get off to a good start. Because I highly encourage people to do their homework before they get one. Heard so many stories where people get the rabbit and either they grow tired of it or it wasn't something that they thought was going to come up that they do. You know, I sold a lot of rabbits to this one girl. And I stressed with her right at the beginning. I saw what was happening. She was addicted to these bunnies. And it is so easy to get addicted to these little guys. And she lost one. Now, she had these rabbits for close to 1.5 years. And she said, Brother Jim. No, she didn't say Brother Jim because she's not a Christian. But she said, Jim, my rabbit all of a sudden has a sneeze and just isn't doing well. Did it have an upper respiratory problem before I bought it? And I said, you've had that rabbit for almost 1.5 years. If that was the case, you would have known it well before that. Well, anyways, the rabbit died. And she gave all the rabbits to somebody else. You know, you're going to run into issues that I run into issues all the time. Things that I'd never seen, things that I'd never heard of. And I've got to research online. There's going to be things that are going to come up. You know, one would think, oh, mamas are going to automatically take care of their babies. Well, they don't always take care of their babies. That's why I've got these 3 in here that I'm bottle feeding every day. It's something that, you know, if you're going to have these things, your own child, you know, if your own child gets sick, are you just going to give it away? Or, and yeah, I know there was some that probably would. Or are you going to try to take care of that child and give it the best care that you can? Well, that's how I am with rabbits. I do what I can with the best that I have. One of these little babies, and I felt so bad about it, I don't think they were quite 1 week old. And it came out of the nest box. I came down here in the dark. It was early in the morning. The way with bees, too, they will change up on you fast. Brother Roy went through this yesterday and day before. A beehive that he knew was getting ready to swarm. And he said, I've got time. I'll get rid of the queen cells. I watched the video this morning. He switched it up and he took the bottom. He was going to take the bottom cage and put it up to the upper cage. Well, the next day they swarmed on him. But he caught them. So now that changed the plans. You know, I had gotten my cages down to a number that I was happy with, knowing that I've got does. I got 2 does that I'm going to separate from the babies today. And then I filled them up. You know, a gentleman who ran into a situation and he needed to get those rabbits out of where they were. It filled my cages up enough so that 2 of them are in here, which they would have come in here anyways. Those are my wife's babies. One other thing that I want to go back to is what to use if you're going to litter box train these rabbits. Is you can buy at Walmart, and there's other places you can buy it. It's a paper material that you put in there. Actually, the boy down here has it. I think it's called Carefree. Fresh Care. You can do an online search. I know you can buy it on Amazon. Like I said, you can buy it at Walmart. Just do a search. A paper type litter box material for rabbits. You can buy that. Now we found something that's a lot cheaper. We found something that will keep the urine smell down even longer. You can go to Tractor Supply. It's a pelleted type material. I think you buy it. Is that a 50-pound bag or 50 or 25? All right, Leanna says it's either a 40 or a 50-pound bag. It's compressed. You put it in there, and as they pee, it will expand, but you don't smell the urine through that fur. You could go a long time. Now, she usually changes these every 3 days, and it works. You don't smell them. This boy here has to be changed more often. The big New Zealand white. Maybe the next video that I do, some of the rabbit care, some of the things to look out for, I'll show there. And I'll show you the intentions of why I promote something on that cage wire to get them off that cage wire if they need, because his feet, when he got here, were so raw. He's healing well. He's not completely healed, but his whole cage is lined with those liners that I was showing you, the resting mats. He's going to be a long time healing up, but maybe I'll show you next week. He's a big boy. And why I was going with this, I've had several who have come to look at rabbits, and wow, these rabbits are big. The Rex rabbit that just went Monday, whatever day it was, he's a big boy. And I said, actually, he's a little bit smaller for a Rex. That would be, again, Brother Roy from that litter. In fact, he's one of those that I showed earlier. He's one of the boys in that picture. Had him for a long time, and I am so happy he went to a good home. But I feed my rabbits. They're not fat, but I feed 18% for a long while. Usually they're up, oh goodness, probably 12 weeks old when I take them off the 18 if I'm raising them for breeders. This guy is huge. He's a big boy. I'm going to say when he gets back, because his weight was way down, I'm going to say when he gets his weight back on, he's long. He's going to be close to a 9-pound boy. Now, boys don't usually hit that 9 pounds. The does, the girls, 9, 10. I've got a lot of them that are right around there. I've got a couple that are 11 pounds. For those that are raising for meat, you want big animals and you want their litters to grow up. If I'm raising that way, I want those babies to hit the 5 pounds at 8 weeks. At least by the 10th week, I want them to hit that 5 pounds. So, friends, this has gone on quite a while. I want people to be able to watch the whole thing. I don't want it so long they fall asleep. I'm just trying to share things that I think that are important before you get your bunny home. If you watched the first video and you said, yeah, I think I want one, hopefully you're doing your homework. What do I need? And that was some of the things I wanted to address in this video. So hopefully I helped you. Next week, maybe I'll show you some of the rabbits. Maybe I'll show you some of the tips and tricks on and just handling. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to handle a bunny. Give me just a minute. Hey, baby boy. Hey, sweet boy. He say, boy, what you doing? You come see daddy? See daddy. Oh, he's a good boy. Yes, he is. He's a good boy. He's a good baby boy. Okay, so this is Miracle. And like I said, he does not have, he still needs quite a bit of weight. I mean, just look at him. Look at his I mean, you can definitely tell he's a boy. He's got the boy head. He's huge. Just everything about him is big. Um, and he's such a lovable boy. You know, I have sold many of my New Zealands, some big, big, big New Zealands. I remember some of babies' litters that went up north. They bought 2 girls, and it went to teenage girls, and they just love these rabbits. Um, so even the New Zealands, you know, even as big as they can be, they can make sweet pets. You know, this boy, I don't know if you can, when I scratch his back, what he's doing is lapping my arm right now. Just loves to be held, loves the attention, loves to cuddle. You know, oftentimes when you're brushing, oh, that was something else. I'll do that in the next video. Rabbits do love to be brushed. I don't have my other brush here. They love to be brushed. For some, it might take some time. And what I usually do is when I get that rabbit, the other thing I want to show is easy, sweet boy, easy. How I brush, I might even do some nail trimming, how to pick a rabbit up. You know, there's people who will pick them up by the ears. There's people that will, you know, there's a lot of loose fur right here. They'll grab them here and pick them up. I'm not going to do that to you. I don't pick my rabbits up that way. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. Easy. Easy. Yeah, I know you want to roam. Give me just a moment, friends. I don't know how well this is going to go. So what I usually, you know, you're not going to be able to see. I'll have to do it out in the barn. Usually what I do is in the cage, I bring them to the front. Then my arm goes around. Their head is usually right on my arm. And I reach around the back and I go just like that. Easy, sweet boy. And then the other thing that I tell people, is make sure those back feet get on something. They don't like their back feet off the ground. They're afraid that they're going to fall. Get them on. What I usually do is if a young child has come to buy a rabbit, usually they've got a few to choose from, or they've chose one that I've advertised online. I want that one, so I'll bring them in, and what I'll do is I'll set that rabbit on their lap, and I'll tell them make sure that those feet are on your lap. You can bring the front legs up, you know, let them go on your chest. And what I usually do if I bring a new rabbit in, no matter if they're a wild child or like all of Daniel's rabbits that came here, they just love to be pet. They've been well loved on before. They experienced that. They long for that. So what I'll do is just pet the head. Start with this. They like that. And then I don't know how well you're going to see. I take my thumbs and I do what I call a cheek rub. And oftentimes, if you've got a rabbit, their ears are way down. Usually they're not sure or they're afraid. You start rubbing that cheek and those, say he loves this. They're going to start going up. He loves it. So that's another thing. You want to bond with that rabbit. That's one of the ways that you can do. And then eventually, you know, start going down the back once they know, okay, this person isn't going to hurt me, you know, and then you can get so that, you know, you notice when I'm showing rabbits that I've got for sale, this is how I usually have. And usually they just sit there and they just love this being made up. He's looking at me again. And he did this right from the first day that he was here. Of course, I raised him. I raised him and his 2 sisters. So, friends, I hope. Thank you, Brother Roy. Really great video, very informative. You know, and it helps if I know what people are looking for. I mean, I can share things that I teach when somebody comes after a rabbit here. I know there's some things that just I have to get those things out. As far as cages, it all depends on your creativity. You can build something like this. You can build something like the hutches that I showed, or you can buy them. They're a little pricey if you buy them. If you are going to build, make sure that you use a wood that's good. Be careful with paint. I know paint is something that a lot of people want. Make sure that it's something that if the rabbit does chew that wood. I want to get into one other thing, and that's feed. Now, this guy, he gets a cup of grain a day. And actually, I could give him a little bit more just to help get that weight on. I don't want him to get fat real quick. I just want him. I don't want to feel these hips back here. And I can really feel those hips. It's going to be a recovery for him. Don't think that you can bring a rabbit home. Well, you can. You can think this. But don't go and buy a rabbit and go with the mindset that you're going to have a big garden and you're going to feed that garden to your rabbits. They are not getting the vitamins. They're not getting the minerals, the proteins that they need from your garden. I might have shared this in the last video. Leanna and I bought a pair of Rex boys. From a gentleman who, that's what he did. He went to the grocery store and he bought all the stuff that was going to get thrown away. The stuff was, from what I could see, actually, I got a picture on my phone. It looked good. It looked like good vegetables. But this is what he raised. And he raised in a colony, multiple rabbits. They ran around in this field at leisure. They came into the barn at leisure. And it was just piles of food, of vegetable scraps. Brenda, it's not good it's not healthy for the rabbit. And if you're trying to raise these rabbits, for a purpose, I like the rubber mates inside. Just imagine walking on wire all day barefoot. Yep. Where was I going with that? Another thing is rabbits' stomachs are very, very sensitive. So if you are going to raise some vegetables for your rabbits, and I encourage you to give them leaf lettuce. During the summer, when my garden is growing well, each rabbit will get a leaf of lettuce. When the dandelions are flowered out nice, I go out and I pick the very bottom of the stem, pick that, and I'll go in with a bouquet of dandelions, and each rabbit gets, except for the small ones, each rabbit gets a flower and a stem. Now, I grew some kale with the purpose of feeding it, and time got away from me, and they didn't get it. You can feed your rabbits, and do it as a treat. And speaking of treats, a lot of people will go and buy. We do the apple, sliced apples that are dehydrated. Limit them. Now, out in the barn, my bunnies get one each night at around 7 o'clock. You can get strawberries, dehydrated strawberries. You can get all kinds of stuff. Limit them. Make them treats. You don't want a rabbit's stomach getting upset because of all that. And, I want my rabbit to grow up to be as healthy as I can. So that was something that I wanted to get out there. You be a good boy. And spend time with them. Rabbits are a sociable animal. They like the human. Once they get used to it, they like this human touch. This right here is doing a world of good for his healing. Spend time with them. Let them know that you're their friend. Huh. Good boy. Friends, I want to thank all of you for spending some time with us. I love each one of you. I hope it encouraged you. For those who aren't interested in getting a rabbit, at least you got to see some cuties. Even this guy, as big as he is, he's still a sweetheart. Tonight, for those that are interested, on the J&L Ministries YouTube. So he's more of a pet than me type. The one who had bought this guy back a year ago Thanksgiving, a year ago Christmas, his purpose was to use him for a breeder with Daniel, it would have been for pets or for somebody raising meat. He would be absolutely beautiful for meat production. When I'm looking for a buck to use for breeding in the New Zealand, this is what I'm looking for. The length. He is very, very long. When he's sprawled out, he is very, very long. Right now, his feet hurt, so he's not as comfortable as he could be. In a later video, I'll show you some of the things that I do as far as veterinary stuff. Because here's another thing, another concern as far as getting a rabbit. Vet cost for a rabbit is going to run you at the very minimum in this area of $300. Just that walk-in fee is going to be around $300. So keep that in mind. Unless you've got some animal science, you've worked with some animals. And the thing with rabbits is there's so much stuff that you can use for other animals that you cannot do with rabbits. They're entirely different. I grew up with cows. I can give you all kinds of advice on cows, horses, even some sheep. Rabbits are so different. And there's been some issues that I have run across. For those that follow the Are You Prepared video, in the intro video, you see one, she's got rings around her eyes. That would have been Melania. She wasn't eating and she hadn't drank. And I knew I had to do something really quick. There was no poops in the rabbit tray after cleaning her the day before. I knew I had to do something drastic. So I called all kinds of vets in the area. Nobody could see her. Nobody could give me any advice. And I ended up talking to a lady up north who raises New Zealand's. And she gave me an idea. And that was to take the Pedialyte, the unflavored Pedialyte. So if anybody runs into this, you have rabbits and you run into this. You've got a rabbit that is dehydrated. Get unflavored Pedialyte and then get one of the bigger syringes and fill it full, minus the needle. Hold it up to their mouth, and usually they'll start licking and just squirt it slow. And they'll take that down really good. Now, the other thing I knew I had to get some minerals and vitamins into her. So what the advice was is to get some mixed baby food. And I said, okay, I'll do that. Well, she's a big dog. She wasn't quite, she was about this size. But she had the big dewlap. And I remember feeding her that bunny food, and her little tongue would go and pieces would be flying out, and her dewlap was covered in orange. Took quite a while to get that out, but It worked. But she still hadn't pooped. So it was on the second day. I said, you know what? If I'm going to get those bowels in her stomach moving, working, I'm going to let her run the whole 20 foot of my barn. And I did that. Well, she got down on the other side. She's smelling all the bunnies on the bottom layer of those cages all the way down and started on the way back. Well, she ended up pooping a huge poop. So there's just something if you run into that situation. And my guess would be she was shedding very hard. I had other rabbits, and you can't help but that hair fly. It's so light. There's times that if I pick up a rabbit, I'll see the hair flying when I got the light on while they're ingesting that. And she got bound up inside. So if you ever run into that problem, or you've got a rabbit who hasn't been drinking for a day and a half, this is something you can do. Unflavored Pedialyte, you can get it at your drugstore. Some of your grocery stores will have it. And then pick up a jar of mixed baby food and get that in them. Usually they'll take to it. It might take a few times, but usually they'll take to it. And again, spending that time with them, having that bond. So if you run into a situation where you've got to handle them, at Tractor Supply, when I take them to the Adopt-A-Pet and I can lay them on their back, and people see that and, wow, look at him. He's laying on his back and he's so, well, easy, sweet boy. And this is what I do. Easy. It's okay. I get you. I lay them on their back. They're supported by my arm here. And now I can work. So, okay. And those are some things that I'll show you. And probably that will be when I can do a live out in the barn. I'd rather do a live because I hope people are going to ask me questions when I'm doing that. I just don't have signal enough out there. So, friends, again, I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for spending some time. I hope you got something out of this today. In the comment box, if there's something that you want me to show you or explain in a later video, drop those down. Drop those in the comment, and I will look at it. I may try to explain online, but if it's something that I can do, I'll do a show and tell. Friends, love you all. Have a great day. And I got to figure out what I'm going to use for an outro. You know what? I'll use I'll play the intro for Tuesday. Love you all. Have a blessed day.